Hey, student, how are you? Welcome to our session on positive and negative intervals. When we are describing intervals of functions, we use the x values to describe the intervals. A positive interval of a function is when the graph is above the x-axis. So we see here the graph is above the x-axis here and here. So these are positive intervals. Negative intervals are when the graph is below the x-axis. Here, the values, the y values, will be negative. This is a negative interval. Taking a look at our notation, we use the x values to describe our notation. From negative infinity, x, negative infinity, so negative 100, negative 10, negative infinity, all the way up to positive 1. The graph is above the x-axis, negative infinity to 1. Union, also, the graph is positive from 5 to x equals positive infinity. You can also use the inequality notation to describe this. The graph is positive when x is less than 1, and also positive when x is greater than 5. The negative intervals, when the graph is below the x-axis, from 1 to 5. 1 to 5. We use parentheses because we are not including 1 and 5, up to, but not including. X is between 1 and 5. At exactly 1 and at exactly 5, the graph, the y values, are 0. So neither positive nor negative when they are on the x-axis. Let's do 2 examples. We'll take a look at these 2 examples. Determine the intervals over which the polynomial is positive, negative, or 0. Now I'm going to use interval notation. You can always pause the video and try these before we work through them. All right, here we go. Number 1, when is this graph positive above the x-axis? Well, the graph is positive from negative 5 to negative 2. Negative 5 to negative 2. I'm using parentheses. I am not including those values. We want everything up to, but not including. Union, and the graph is also positive from 4 to positive infinity. Those are the x values for which you will have positive y values. Let's do the negative intervals. The negative intervals is when the graph is below the x-axis. Below the x-axis. And we see from negative infinity up to negative 5, the graph is below the x-axis. Union, also, from negative 2 to 4. Again, using parentheses, we are not including the zeros. Speaking of the zeros, when x is equal to negative 5, negative 2, and positive 4, the y values are 0. Number 2, taking a look at the positive intervals. The graph is above the x-axis, positive y values, from negative infinity to negative 4, in between negative 1 and positive 1, and above the x-axis from 7 to positive infinity. All right, let's write down those intervals. Positive above the x-axis, negative infinity to negative 4, union, negative 1 to positive 1, union, 7 to positive infinity. These are all the intervals for which the graph will have positive y values. And the negative intervals when the graph is below the x-axis. Below the x-axis, we have from -4 to -1 union +1 to 7. The graph is below the x-axis. We will get negative y values. And then the zeros at exactly -4, -1, +1, and 7. The y values are exactly 0. And that concludes positive and negative intervals. Thanks so much for joining our session, and I'll see you next time.